I was talking the other day with a physician client of mine about, well, of course, my favorite topic, which is the lie of age. And he said something rather interesting. He said, actually, you'll never be able to prove that. Well, actually, I'll prove it today. Proving the lie of age today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness. Sure appreciate you joining us today. And before I get going, I get asked this a lot. I don't say this enough about how you can contact us if you're interested in more information on any of these topics or interested in getting some information about how to get started on your own program or how to enhance your program. I can be reached here at Personal Edge Fitness. The best way to get me probably is via email. That's Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You're more than welcome to contact us via our website, and that's Personal Edge Fitness, or our Facebook page, which is Personal Edge Fitness. If you want to get more direct, you're welcome to call me at the Mobile location, which is 251-341-0927, or at our Daphne location, which is 251-651-0927. And I hope to hear from you if we can help you set up and design a program or make your life a little better by helping you reach your own level of wellness. We'll be more than glad to. Now back to the topic at hand, which is my favorite topic to discuss, and that is the lie of aging. Now, if you're not familiar with this particular subject, please check out Personal Edge Fitness Podcast episodes 12 through 16. Now, 12 through 16 is a 5-part series that I do on the lie of aging. This happens to be what my book is about, and hopefully that book will be out within the next year. And this is talking about the fact of the simple concept that we believe that as time passes on a calendar, we seem to fall apart. And it just automatically happens. There's nothing we can do about it. We can slow it down. We can make some changes to make the effects of it not so bad, but it is inevitable. It just happens simply because time passes on a calendar, and I call that a lie. That is a lie. The concept that we deteriorate strictly because time passes on a calendar is an absolute lie. This is based on the fact that we've been studying the human body since the early 1700s, if not before. I always say the early 1700s because that's the first recorded autopsy, and so I figured that's when we really started studying the human body, and we still don't know everything there is to know about the human body. We will know more about it next year. And so the concept that we think we know everything about the human body, or that we believe the human body automatically deteriorates, this just automatically happens, even though life expectancy is continuing to increase. We're finding more and more things that we should have been doing different ways, which is making our 50s the new 30s, and 30s the new 20s, and 20s the new, I don't know, all that ridiculous stuff you hear. This is not just some kind of funny coincidence. The lie of age is real. There is no such thing as deteriorating because time passes on a calendar. That is a lie. And anybody that tells you that is a liar. Now, this is something I've talked about and I've spoken on for over the past 10 years. And I've actually made those statements at the beginning of my talk. I'm a Southern gentleman. My mother did raise me right. I know which side of the street to walk on when I'm downtown with my wife. And you always walk on the side of the sidewalk if you're a gentleman that is next to the traffic. Allow the female companion to walk on the inside. I carry a handkerchief, a pocket knife. I say ma'am, I say grace. I am a Southern gentleman. I am polite. But when it gets to this subject, always warn people that I'm very, very blunt. And I started off by saying that the concept that we deteriorate as time passes on a calendar is a lie. And then I go on to say anybody telling you that is lying to you. And anybody that says that is a liar. I don't care who it is. I don't care what their background is. Now I'm going to sit here and tell you how I can prove that. I'm going to flip the script at the end of this, and so stay tuned for the very end of this because I've got an interesting thought process that nobody really ever goes through when I'm involved with this discussion and or argument. And the funny thing is that this whole passion about dealing with the lie of age began because of an argument. It actually began because of an argument with a health professional that pretty much is the basis for my career. So I'm very thankful for that particular discussion. So let's get to it here. Proving the lie of age. Well, actually, I find that extremely simple. And the reason I probably have never discussed this before, never gotten into proving the lie of age, because I think that a lot of this is incredibly blatantly obvious. But obviously, it is not so blatantly obvious as I think. Problems associated with time passing on a calendar happen to be related to deficiencies or somewhere where we're not, where we're lacking. Let's put it that way. Think about that. As we get older, we get weaker. Now, listen, when I say comments like that, please don't quote me. You know I'm using it as an example. You know I do not believe that. But this is a commonly held belief of this lie, and that is that as time passes on a calendar, we get weaker. So evidently, we have a deficiency in strength. As time passes on the calendar, we get forgetful. So therefore, we automatically have a deficiency in our memory. As time passes on the calendar, we lose energy. Therefore, we have a deficiency in either calorie absorption or inefficient tissues in our body, what have you. As time passes on a calendar, we're reserved, we're restricted, it all deals with lacking. It all deals with deficiencies. You follow me? Because that's really what we're talking about. When I speak about the lie of aging, I break down to to the heart of the matter of what people see me about. People don't come to see me because they have wrinkles. They typically see their dermatologist about that. They don't come to see me because they have gray hair. They'll go see their, typically they'll go to the drugstore for that and pick up some Grecian formula, or they'll see their, whoever handles their beauty parlor, their barber, whatever about that. What people come to me for is they come to me because of this very common phrase that I hear quite often when people are sitting across me from my desk and I say, "What can I do for you?" And they typically start the conversation somewhere around this concept. You know, Garrett, back when I was, and they'll name some kind of magic age. Now the reason I don't usually put a number with that is because your magic age may be remotely different than somebody else's magic age. But usually it's an 18, a 36, a 22, whatever. It doesn't matter. Somewhere younger than they are now. But back, Garrett, when I was that age, I could do XYZ. And many times they get an almost glossed over look in their eyes, and they go back down wonderful memory lane, and they talk about all the amazing physical things that they could do when they were that magic age. And then they follow it up with, but now that I have attained an older age, I can't do those things. And I make it very clear what I'm talking about. I'm talking about ability. They speak about ability, and they think that time passing on the calendar is what's caused them to lose that ability. Well, since we're talking about lack of ability, we're talking about deficiencies that happen because time passes on a calendar. Well, the answer, and the reason I say this is so obvious, is the answer is deficiencies. The answer is a lifetime of deficiencies. That's what causes these problems. There's a direct cause and effect, and it has nothing to do with mythical time. It has nothing to do with time. It has to do with deficiencies. Now, typically when I'm speaking to somebody about this, they say, you can't prove this, or they'll say, okay, well then, if that's true, Garrett, if it's true that there's the lie of aging and the fact that we don't deteriorate because time passes on a calendar, then why do we see so many people? Why do you look around in this room right now, Garrett, and you see all these people that have inabilities. They've lost strength. And their common thread is that they're older now. So why is that? Well, hold on to that thought. Combine that with a lifetime of deficiencies, and you now have your answer. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start off with what I do for a living. I get into a lot of nutrition and what have you, and I'm not a dietitian, nor do I play one on TV, but there are a lot of aspects of what I do that involve nutrition. But the thing that I do for a living, obviously, I'm a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer for 29 years. I love telling you this. I own and run the number one personal training facility in the state. It is within the top 5 of the Southeast. We have the most qualified staff in the Southeast with an average tenure of a client of 8 years, and we do not do contracts whatsoever, so we never had a contract with a client. So obviously we teach exercise. Well, deficiencies, lifetime deficiencies, the general population, put all that together, and do you realize that less than 20% of adults exercise or get the CDC's recommendation of exercise on a daily basis? Now, isn't that interesting? Garrett, look at all these people. Why do all of them seem to be older and less able? Well, not all of them are. Somewhere less than 20% of them aren't. But yes, 80 to 81% of them are. Well, 80 to 81% of adults do not exercise regularly. They used to. Back when they were that magic age, when I was 12 and I was 13, used to play tag. I played soccer. I was a star on the football team. Now I don't. Well, folks, I think this one's blatantly obvious. I don't need to finish this sentence for you. If you don't use it, and you just finished that sentence in your head, didn't you? You lose it. Well, when you've got 80% of adults that don't exercise regularly, there's one of your answers right there. It's a lot easier to use that excuse. Well, I mean, I'm older, so this just happened to me. Wrong. I hate to tell you this, but you are to blame for it. It is your responsibility. But if you listen to the live aging, and if you don't understand what's going on here, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to episodes 12 through 16, because they describe in detail about the live aging, every aspect of it. In that, I tell you, it is your fault, it is your responsibility, and that is good news, because that means you have control of it. But 80% of the people don't work out regularly. Okay, well, Garrett, 80% don't work out, but they walk and they're this, that, and the other. That can't be the only reason. You're right. That's not the only reason. We love to have a generalized, simple, what is the 1-second answer to my 40-year problem? Well, it never is just one thing. Let's go to another big topic, one of my favorites. What is every product for the body, typically for the outside of the body, for the body, that's sold over the counter for people past a certain age? What are they targeting? What do they usually say in their advertising? I'm talking about shampoos. I'm talking about soaps. I'm talking about hand creams, lip gloss, whatever. What do they have in it? Hydration. Hydrating. It's a hydrating formula. It hydrates. Why are they saying that? Why is that such a buzzword? Because we seem to be drying out. Why are we drying out? Well, guess what? 75% of adults are dehydrated. 75% of adults are dehydrated. Why is that important? Well, the fountain of youth, folks, that I've spoken about before are 3 things: water, protein, and exercise. Those are the fountain of youth. And as recommended by the CDC, by the Mayo Clinic, by Harvard Medical, by Stanford Medical, by Ken Cooper's facility, by the American Dietary Association, do you really need me to keep going? Recommended by every single one of those institutions is 100 ounces a day, every day that ends in a Y, every day of the week, 7 days a week, 9 days a week if you can. Every day that you're supposed to, the day that you celebrate not drinking water, yeah, you're supposed to drink water that day too. Well, what does water do? I mean, so I drink water. I saw a cup of water yesterday. I'm making a joke. And the reason I'm making a joke is that 75% of people do not drink enough water. But almost every client that I ask when they first come in here, how much water do you drink? Well, I drink a lot. Most people don't have a clue. And no offense to the general public on this by any means, most people think that 8 ounce glasses is enough. It's not. It's not. It's not even, no institution of any decent regard recommends 64 ounces. All the reputable ones recommend at least 100 ounces. Well, you start being forgetful when you're older, right? Simple names. You can't remember your neighbor's name or something, Well, that just happens when you get older. Do you know that 30% of the water that you take in is used by your brain? Guess what happens when you're dehydrated? Your brain doesn't function as well. You can't remember simple things. And why does that commonly happen to all this group of people? Is it because all of them have passed a certain time on the calendar? Or is it because 75% of people do not drink enough water? There's a simple cause and effect to this. We got 80% that don't exercise, 75% that don't drink enough water. How about protein? I mentioned that a minute ago, didn't I? Let me show you something interesting about that. Protein is the building blocks to muscle. Without protein, you cannot grow muscle, period. End of story. It cannot happen. Well, I'm not trying to bodybuild and get stronger. I'm just trying to stay toned. Fine. You can't stay toned with it. You cannot maintain the muscle you've got. If you did the exact same exercise every single day, or the exact same way of life every single day, that way of life, as far as walking to the mailbox, whatever, would become diminished if you don't have the right amount of protein. Period. Because your body is constantly breaking down, repairing, and it's doing a constant system analysis. And it's constantly tearing down and rebuilding muscle. Whether you work out or not, doesn't matter. Y'all know that's my water there that I'm always taking in. But that's why you've got to maintain protein. No matter whether you exercise or not, it doesn't matter. You need to maintain protein. Well, 46% of adults are protein deficient. Almost half of adults are protein deficient. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. 46%, Garrett. I think we've got a crack in your lining here. Well, how about this? When you get to seniors, 65 and over, 75% of seniors are protein deficient. Now, I'll talk about this in my series on live aging. When you get to the nutrition, you get to the lifestyle portion of it, both in nutrition and in lifestyle, I address this. As time passes on the calendar and our lifestyle changes, we start to cut protein out of our diet. Now, go and listen. You'll hear why. I don't want to rehash that entire episode, but if you listen to the episodes 12 through 16 about the live aging, I cover that, and I cover that in the ones on nutrition and lifestyle. You see exactly what happens, and it will make perfect sense to you. But there you go. 80% of the people don't exercise, 75% of the people don't drink enough water, and 46% up to 75% for seniors don't take in enough protein. Is that all? Why, no. How about obesity? The number one killer? I speak about that in one of my podcasts. Podcast number 18 deals with the number one killer. And if anybody tells you it's heart disease, guess what? They're lying to you. They may not know it, but they are lying to you. And the reason I say that is that obesity is the number one killer because it happens to be the number one reason for, excuse me, I don't have the notes in front of me right now, but 5 of the top 10 killers in the world, the number one reason for all of them is obesity. The number one cause of heart disease is obesity. Number one cause of diabetes is obesity. So obesity is rather significant. Well, guess what? 30% of our nation is obese. Now, that's just from the numbers that we know. That's extrapolating out from smaller test samples. I argue that it's larger than that. But 30% of the population is obese, and that means 30% body fat or more. Now, that's when they do that, or they do the BMI scale, which I'm not a big fan of because I still think that's almost like a height and weight scale. But more technical is using body fat measurements. But 30% of people are obese. Well, what does obesity cause? Diabetes, stroke, heart disease, high blood pressure. 30% of the people are obese, 75% of the people don't drink enough water, 80% don't exercise enough, 46 to 75% don't get enough protein. Are you seeing a pattern here? Now are you seeing why? It's very easy when somebody says, well, Garrett, look around. If the live aging is true, if you don't deteriorate because time passes on the calendar, why are all these people deteriorating? Are you starting to see why? Let's keep going. Magnesium. Why is that important, Garrett? Don't be one of those personal trainers that gets off on these weird little minerals and want us to take all these funny supplements that don't really mean anything. Well, what does magnesium do? Well, a magnesium deficiency causes diarrhea. It can also lead to diabetes. How about it can cause celiac disease? It also causes hungry bone syndrome, which can lead to osteoporosis. Magnesium deficiency? 61%. 61% of people are magnesium deficient. Now, I'm going to show you something kind of interesting about this. I'm going to mention 3 of them here. Magnesium, potassium, and vitamin D. Each one of these, I'll do like I did magnesium. I'll tell you what a deficiency in that particular vitamin or mineral causes, but watch when I put them together. Potassium. 97% of people do not take in enough potassium. What does that cause? Well, high blood pressure. It can cause constipation, kidney problems, heart issues. Kind of significant. Kidney function is extremely important, as is liver function. This is why with many patients, especially cancer patients and heart patients, they measure the amount of potassium. Vitamin D. Now, I'm going to put all these together for you in a minute. But vitamin D, 95% of people are deficient in vitamin D. What can that do? Well, it can increase your blood pressure. It can cause bone pain, which can lead to osteoporosis. It also causes heart disease. You notice something all 3 of these cause? Lack of magnesium, lack of potassium, lack of vitamin D all cause heart issues or heart disease. Now, you've got several other nutrients also. Calcium, you've got iron. You've got a lot of them that I haven't even researched for this particular podcast. But I was talking to you about the fact that sometimes putting these together, them by themselves, exercise by itself or not getting enough exercise by itself is bad enough. Not getting enough water, they're direct cause and effects to not getting enough water. But you may not think much about potassium or magnesium or iron or calcium or vitamin D, but watch when you put these together. I just did this very simply here. A low magnesium can cause diarrhea. Well, that coupled with a lack of water, and diarrhea, one of the big things with diarrhea is it causes major dehydration, where if you're already dehydrated, now you've got some serious mental problems. Seriously, it affects your head. What about that low magnesium combined with low potassium? That causes a major potassium deficiency, which can cause heart problems, which can be exacerbated by low iron and, of course, obesity. Obesity, low magnesium, low potassium, low vitamin D, all can cause heart disease. They call that the number 1 killer. Well, look at this. Look what you're contributing to it. When you've got numbers of anywhere from 20 to 97% of individuals are deficient in these nutrients, in these vitamins. On top of that, 80% of people don't exercise on a regular basis. Is it starting to come clear now? Because it seems to me blatantly obvious these deficiencies over a lifetime can cause you to deteriorate, or as we like to term it, age. I can sit here and go all day. I've been going for almost 25 minutes now, and I've been talking about the different, just some of the different parts of nutrition that are lacking, the exercise that's lacking. You can see I'm showing you a direct cause and effect to why we cause our bodies to deteriorate. But no matter what, if I could go on for another 3 hours, I'd still have individuals in the category that I like to call the whatabouts. Clearly defined and more direct, the yeah buts people. And what I mean by that is I can sit here and list all of these, and I can still have somebody says, yeah, but what about arthritis? Yeah, but what about my grandmother who does this? Yeah, but what about? And each of the yeah, but what abouts, I can sit there and have an answer for every single one of them, and I can prove every single one of them. But I'll probably still get another yeah, but what about? Now, at the beginning of this, I told you that at the end of this podcast, I would flip the script a little bit. And here's one that's very interesting. And if you have an answer to this, you're more than welcome to call and prove me wrong. Please do. I'd love for you to do this. Again, contact me. You can contact me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. That's my email address. You can contact me through the website at personaledgefitness.com or our Facebook page, which is Personal Edge Fitness. You're welcome, more than welcome, to call me at our mobile location at 251-341-0927, or you can contact Josh and have Josh get in touch with me at our Daphne location, which is 251-651-0927. And I would love for you to contact me if you have an answer for this. Prove to me that time passing on a calendar causes us to deteriorate. And I'll tell you something very interesting. You can't use, and if you listen to the podcast series 12 through 16 of the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast, when it talks about the lie of aging, I list 4 different components that cause us to deteriorate. And they are lifestyle, they are fitness, they are nutrition, and they are mindset. So when you're calling me up, grabbing that phone, ready to run this down my throat, remember, if you're going to call me and you're going to prove that time passing on a calendar causes us to deteriorate, then you cannot use lifestyle, nutrition, fitness or activity, and mindset. Those aren't time. Those not time passing on a calendar. You can't use those 4 components. But if you can prove to me, I would love for you to give me a call. I'll give you a free month of personal training, 5 days a week. If you can prove to me that solely time passing on a calendar causes us to deteriorate. The good news is, folks, I'm right. And that's not true. So let's stop believing it. And instead of putting this deadline on our lives, putting this deadline on our activities, putting this fictitious deadline on our abilities, let's flip the script. Let's believe that we can always be better, because that way we will truly reach our level of wellness.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.